in my threadbareness here. We've also laughed about the color differentiation in the linen from the sun fading on my skirts.
How old is this outfit?
8 years?
So it's seen a lot of wear and tear,
Oh, yeah.
which would be typical because you're
Yes.
gonna wear a garment until it's threadbare, can no longer
Yeah.
be repaired,
Repaired,
etc.
right.
That's real life back then.
Yes,
It's like with the Japanese peasants.
yes.
They wore
Yes.
their clothes until they couldn't patch them no more.
And now I won't wear patched clothes because I don't have to. I'm a wealthy merchant's wife. I may hand this down to a servant, if I had any. I have apprentices, it's the same thing. But for us, because we also demo printing and the printing arts. And this next year, hopefully, we will have a paper making press. What do you think linen rag is made out of?
Ah, your old clothes.
So I will have a bundle of rags available for the print master to use, the paper master to use. And this will be part of it. This will be cut up into tablecloths and other useful items. And I'll over dye. I'll take off the green strip because it's just a piece of cloth that's sewn onto the gray, which means that the gray underneath the green is 5 different shades darker than the one on top. And I'll use this fabric because there is 6 yards of really good linen here. Now, somewhere in the back,
So that skirt is 6 yards.
yes,
36?
6.
Oh,
no,
six.
6.
Okay, that's done, 36.
No, no,
My ears.
no, that's okay. No, that would, now, some of the ladies, you'll see, looks like they have a shelf back here. Some of their, and when those velveteen, especially if it's cotton velvet, which weighs a ton, that's what they call a bum roll. And it's a bolster that kind of looks like a half moon. And there's that's why you start with that, but, when you're wearing that, it actually helps take the weight of that skirt, but then you have to make sure that you do your hem right so that your hem doesn't go like this.
Yes.
and back. And I always figure I don't need a bolster, thank you, I have enough back there.
Do you have other outfits, or is this it?
I have one more, which is even older than this one. And my nod to the fact that it's sometimes, especially at Vegas Fair, it's sometimes 100 degrees. And I don't care if I'm sitting in the shade spinning, it's still too hot, because I'm in 5 layers. I use linen. I use cotton. I do not use wool for the most part. Though one of my overgowns, I do have wool for a new overgown that is wool. Okay, I'm 59, I'm menopausal, I don't need any wool on. So you have natural fibers, because linen, although it's expensive for us, unless Fabrics and Fabrics on the corner of Maple and Ninth up in LA, they have a wall of linen bolts, and it's usually about $6 a yard. Fabrics and Fabrics.
Is it the
Grandpa
garment
owns
that's-
it, son runs it, his son schleps, and their other schlepper is Luis, and he's a dog.
And it's maple and what?
Maple and Ninth, so it's right smack in the heart of the fabric district.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's another one too that does a lot with the Ren Fair people, and that's MB Fabrics. And he'll order fabrics particularly for some of our groups if we need specific colors. For the military group, they all have a red wool, God bless them, that they wear in their doublets. It's all the same manufacturer, so it's all the same color. Their household color is all one color of linen, so they buy the bolt, 50-yard bolts of that particular linen from MB, so that's another fabric distributor. The bolster, the bum roll. the Bell, one of our whores, has a bum roll that sticks out about this far. So when Edith has the shelf on, is it Edith or is it Rory? It's Rory. Rory wears this thing and it sticks out about 8 inches. And that would be fine, but Rory's only about this big. So it really does look funny to see this, caboose.
Yeah.
And so this lady was coming through the front gate. And sometimes you're sleep deprived, it's dusty, it's hot, and you get the sillies. So this lady was coming through, and I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at her. And one of my sisters, for the change, it was not Francesca, I think it was Donna, starts leaning over and looking, and then she says, "What are we looking at?" And I said, "The lady's got a bum roll." And she straightens up. Now, Donna's, what, 62? She's also a really good friend of mine. She's also a dental hygienist at a prison up in Cal City. So she's a tough old broad. She also works for me at Comic-Con, but that's beside it. She straightens up, and I promise I won't hit you. And she goes, "Whack!" And I'm like, "What?" She says, "That is not a bum roll." "It's a bum roll." "It's not a bum roll." "Well, what is it then?" She said, "The lady has a baby. It's the bolster that she uses in the car seat to keep the baby upright." It looked just like a bum roll. So that was pretty silly. But we live what we do, and we share what we do, and we love what we do. And I don't know what else. Any questions? Anything you'd like to know about?
So Mikey,
Yes.
if I wanted to join today and be in your guild,
Mhm.
do I have to get vetted in there? Who do I pick?
You talk to me,
Oh, okay,
or you talk to him.
all right.
You can talk to him. He's actually the one who would say, "Yeah, we'll take your money." It's $50 a year for an active membership. It's $25 a year for a friend of membership. $50 gets you into Southern, providing you make the commitment to work the Southern Renaissance Fair. It gets you a lot of dust. It's an expensive hobby. It is worse than needlepoint or embroidery.
Hard to believe.
Well, I'll break it down for you. Okay. Mr. Ritter. I did not make the hat. I made the hat man. Hat. Got it cheap? Know the guy who makes it. $80.
Is it wool or felt? What's because my
It's,
husband's a hat
rubber.
guy.
This one is this is not a cotton velvet, it is a
Nylon velvet.
nylon, which is why he's sweating the way that he is. Linen shirt, linen clothes. Okay, now if you're buying trim from me, unless you're weaving it yourself, now for the doublet, the shirt, the trim, the pants have self-cording on them. You're probably gonna pay a costumer to do this for you, a professional costumer, and they're gonna run you about $1,800. Just for the doublet, the shirt, and the trews.
Not including the embroidery or including the not including, you have to provide the embroidery.
You either provide the embroidery yourself, or
You pay someone.
you pay someone to do it. My trim, I don't usually sell it because, well, it takes me an hour to weave a yard of trim.
Right. So that's all woven trim. That
So-
doesn't go to the store and buy
No,
a
no.
machine-made trim. Everything has to be handmade,
Well, it doesn't have to be handmade.
but
You
that's
can
the
buy
rule.
trim, providing it's gonna pass the
Yes.
costume
Right.
approval process, so far as it can't be a Victorian flower pattern.
Right.
And
It can't be a mod 70s flower pattern either.
now, an Egyptian key pattern would be fine because that's old enough that it's new enough again.
Okay. I want to know what his boots cost.
The boots were
419, or 2002.
yeah.
So
Okay.
a set of
then
boots like this today, about
600?
600 to 700.
Yeah.
So,
Now, did you have to go to like a costume department? Because I can't imagine you can walk into your standard boot store and buy those.
No.
yeah.
No, I got these from a gentleman who did Renaissance period shoes and boots.
Okay, so you had to go to a leather maker.
So, yes, that
And
would
then
have.
Specialty.
So
A
then, like,
specialty
send
cobbler.
them a thing in your foot or just say a size 10 or,
No, Richard measured.
Yeah,
this.
he measured my legs
Yeah.
as well as my feet,
okay,
because he had to know how big around
right.
my
So
calves
they're
were.
custom, but as you
Because
pointed
they're-
out, you can't,
Yeah, oh, the lace, oh, how cool.
Awesome.
they're period boots.
Yes.
Yeah, and so you could maybe take your flaps up
And-
higher?
I like doing the pirate style where I
Right.
take the top
Yeah.
5 inches and fold it over.
Right,
Some guys
go all the way up.
just,
Yeah.
they tie their laces around to keep them up, and then they
Right.
do
Cavaliers.
the cavalier style.
Aha,
And either way is actually period for the time.
and I would think in the winter, maybe wearing them up would be warmer, and in the summer
Yes.
when it's a little,
Yes.
in the winter when it's colder, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Could you buy the linen in those days, or did you have to weave it yourself?
No, you could buy it, unless, of course, the family that you're part of is a family of weavers that weave linen, at which point in time, you
get the
have,
family discount.
you get the family discount. It's not gonna be for free. Trust me, not with my brother.
And in this time period, barter is the main method of buy and sell.
That would make sense.
Right. Gold.
I would go to the cobbler and we would barter weaving and spinning and whatnot that
For
my
shoes.
family does
Yeah.
for a set of boots.
Okay.
How many people here have seen a $1 bill?
We all have them in our wallets.
How about a $5 bill? 10? 20? A 100?
These days, yeah.
$500 bill?
Happens all the time.
But not, no.
$1,000 bill?
No, they're gone.
They're merchants.
Oh.
Most people
They
would
used to
live
do-
their entire life in this time period and never see a 1-pound coin, which is about the equivalent of a $1,000 bill. Most everything that you would purchase, you would get, if you were using money, you would use hay pennies, pennies, groats, and
Our shillings?
sixpence.
Oh,
Sixpence,
Shilling, where's it?
Shilling, no, a shilling is a higher,
So
that would be
that's-
like dropping a Benjamin.
Okay, wow, yeah, you're, yes. In
So-
a village life, everything is so much,
So I have a herd of sheep, a flock of sheep, and the shearers come in, and if they behave themselves and do a good job, I have a bunch of smelly wool. They're gonna take part of that wool, as well as maybe a sheep that's no longer bearing a fleece that's sufficient enough for, spinning. And that's their payment. And then I'm gonna take it to the dyer, because the dyer is a different process than the spinners and the weavers. The dyer is gonna dye my wool, and he's gonna keep some of it as payment.
He dyes it before or after it's spun?
Before, for the most part, and think about a skein of embroidery floss. It's twisted. Or a rope. If you've ever seen a rope that's gotten water spilled on it, it's not wet on the inside of the twist. So if you're looking for a delicate color, you don't want your fiber soaking in that dye. It's gonna get very intense. But that's the only way to get it even through the twist. If you dye it, and I didn't bring any more. If you dye it before you spin it, the color is even throughout. And then, and that way, now you can dye it, especially if it's going to be a very intense color, you can dye it after you spin it. But I'm gonna give it over to the dyer, and he's gonna keep some of that, and maybe I'm going to give him 6 eggs. Probably not gonna give him the chicken. But then what I have left is what I'm going to spin. Now, if I spin that, I'm then gonna give it over to one of my brothers, who then is going to weave with it, or depending upon how fine it is, will depend on what it's made into. The weaving, the spinning that I've done, this is Falkland, and this is wool, so if you do have a true allergy, you don't want to fondle the wool.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question.
Yes.
So, who does most of the spinning and who does most of the weaving in regards to men and women?
Depends on the size of the family.
Okay, so you said you would give the yarn to the men to do the weaving, so in your family, the men are all the weavers and the women are all the spinners?
Nope.
Nope, there is,
There's crossover.
okay.
I'm
Nice
con-
and soft.
Thank you. That one is merino and silk, or as I tell the children, it's sheep's hair and bug spit. And 50-50, boys and girls, doesn't matter. I either get a ooh or an ee. One of the young nobles, now in our time, boys, especially nobles, were not breeched until they were about 8, which meant it was really difficult to tell the boys from the girls. This young man had just been breeched, and he was an earl in his own right. And so his lordship was sitting there watching me spin, and he had on his oh jeez, Perry did such a good job. His suit was incredible, and we were discussing where silk comes from. We were discussing the fact that it's bug spit. And the earl, who was 8 at the time, precocious, got that only as an 8-year-old little boy can get that absolute pure mischief look on their faces. He goes, I'm wearing bug spit. And he was so delighted that he ran up to his mother. Now his mother, Christine's 5'10", and she's such a lady. She is the epitome of grace. And she's statuesque, and she's beautiful, and she's just gorgeous. And the inside matches the outside, which is really nice. And her son runs up to her and goes, Lady Mother, yes, my son, I'm wearing bug spit. And I'm thinking, and my head's on a platter. And I'm trying very hard not to just call attention to my sitting over there. And the Duchess looks down at her son, and then I found out where he got that grin. And she goes, why, yes, my son, you are. And that grin deepened, and she went, like she's gonna hawk a loogie. Which sent him into giggles, made me realize my head was safe for another day. And Christine was absolutely thrilled that he was having so much fun in our area. And so there's all sorts of fun things to do with that. But getting back to who does what, in our family, because we are an extended family, we have people who are weavers, and we have people who spin, and we have people who do both. I'm considered a master weaver so far as our group is concerned and our village is concerned, but I don't weave cloth. I weave trim.
Oh, okay.
Completely
So
different
you're highly
techniques.
specialized.
Yes, yes. And now, my brother Willem, when he's out of the tavern, not that we serve booze in our tavern, doesn't stop him, he's got it in the cooler in the back. When he's weaving, he does incredible jobs. He does these bags with no seams. And he weaves, he twists using a rope jack. He twists the cord together to make the rope out of the same threads that he's weaving. And then he weaves that into the sides so that you have a haversack type of bag. Wow. Of course, he overcharges for them, but that's okay. The amount of work, as you all know, you cannot.
Finish your thoughts, I have a couple of small questions.
Okay, you cannot recoup the cost of your labor.
And my first question
Yes.
is on your merchant here.
Yes,
Is the ear cuff authentic?
yes.
Really?
That one is gonna be a replica, but yes, that kind of jewelry was very prevalent with the men.
Quite interesting.
You notice I'm not wearing one.
Yes, but my second question is
Yes.
about your glasses. Now, when you do your fairs, do you wear contacts? Or do you just go blind, or what do you do?
Technically, I should go blind, but since I'm legally blind without them,
I see.
I can do this, and in fact, if I'm at home, yeah, I know there are people out here. But you can see here, I can see purple, and I can see a pink, reddy pink, and blues, and whites and yellows, and kind of different hair colors, kind of. But if you ask me if the people here are male or female, sorry, I can't see you. I can see here.
You and I are very similar.
And what my eye doctor told me was, well, if you want to hold your needlework there, because I finally brought some in for him to see. And these are my new frames, and no, they are not period in any way, except they are metal.
Right.
Well, I'm sure it would be virtually impossible. I don't even know if they make glass.
Yes, they
Do you
did.
know? Did they make glass?
Yes, they did.
She's our
They're
optician
not,
here.
they were not nearly the quality that we have today because the grinding techniques were not
Yes.
what they were.
And you wouldn't have had bifocals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, you needed
so they
Benjamin Franklin
had
for that.
them,
Yes.
but they were expensive.
And he's cheap.
Well,
And I'm cheap.
I've
But-
seen some of the frames Heather has sold, and they're not cheap.
Well, most
But
frames
basically,
are these days.
what the costumer for the fair as well as for the guilds basically is, we'd rather you wear your non-period eyeglasses and be able to see what you're doing than to trip and fall because you're trying to be period.
And I think it would be easier to interact with people if you could see their face.
Yes.
And expressions,
Yes.
because you're
Oh, yeah,
really
details.
handicapped if you can't see a person's face.
Yes.
And literally, if this is as far as you can see, then you're not gonna be able to interact with the person because of people getting so close. And if you've got a spinning wheel or something in front of you,
Yes.
that's even more distance.
Well, Josh is carrying a sword.
And
I've
that
not seen
could,
that.
and that could
Could
be,
be a little dangerous.
well,
Yeah.
no, that's why I don't walk on that side.
Oh. But can we see the sword?
I walk on this side.
So you're a merchant, why do you have a sword?
I travel.
Okay, okay.
And
so
I
that's
carry
the-
product and money.
And you, so you have.
I have a lot of money, but I'm not going to waste it on a horse.
So do you have, oh, you walk?
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
We
There was
walked wherever we went.
Well, I'm talking about when you do, when you travel.
You
You
always
walk?
Yes,
carry cash.
we walked.
Yes,
Okay.
Shanksmere.
Shakespeare.
Now, so do you guys have other weapons besides swords? I mean, does anyone have guns? Oh, you do, oh, there's your pistol, okay. I didn't see it.
And that's
in your
actually
book.
an Ottoman Empire antique. It's been in the family for quite some time.
Oh. So you're allowed.
This is actually a flintlock, which is about 120, 130 years out of our period. But most people don't know enough about firearms to realize that flintlocks don't come in until the mid-1600s.
So what would have been the style of gun?
Matchlock and what is it she carries? Basically, it would,
The black powder?
well, they're all black powder.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
But they had a fuse
Okay,
that was attached to the hammer. Is same basic kind of style, where you had a pad that you would put powder down.
right,
But the hammer actually had a piece of rope, thread, string
Fuse, yeah.
that was treated with flammable material.
okay.
So they would light it,
And that's how
and-
it would go off.
and it would just smolder.
Right,
And what they would do is they would cock the hammer back, and when they pulled the trigger, it would bring the
right.
burning cloth down to the pan, ignite it, and blow.
You know, it's a miracle anything ever got killed with one of those things.
Which is why,
Well, they're one shot.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah,
why-
yeah, you use it more as a weapon.
this is solid brass.
Okay, so you can conk someone on the head.
Oh,
with
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That would,
After you shoot your wad,
Yeah, that's all you've got.
you turn it around and you use it as a club, because this poor part here probably weighs close to a pound.
Okay,
And you
bash it.
swing it against the side of somebody's head.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more accurate than
Yeah.
and yes, and they, because
And
the
you pray
barrels
you
are
have a
not
longer
rifled.
reach than your opponent.
Yes,
Yes.
So would you have to make, with this pistol that you have, make your own ammunition?
yes,
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
yeah, you would. Yes,
When are the Renaissance fairs held and where, and do they move around?
yes, and all over. Um,
Well, you said 5 weeks,
7.
7 weeks.
So this is what we do. We start in January. But it opens for the public in April. And this is the one that's up in LA County. It's the original Renaissance Pleasure Fair that was in Agoura and then moved to San Bernardino and now is in Irwindale. Hallelujah. It also moved from being in April, May, and June, because it was usually, we ended on Father's Day weekend. And God, that was miserable.
Hot.
In San Bernardino. That was a little warm. And that goes from the first weekend of April to the weekend right before Memorial Day. Because we are in a county park and they want the revenue from the people coming in for Memorial Day, we are not open. That is our tear down day. And we are usually, we've taken 4 weekends to build it, but it only takes us the day to tear it down. And then there is a small one here in San Diego County in Felicita Park. There are Renaissance fairs and there are Renaissance fairs. There are Renaissance fairs where there are groups that attempt to do something reasonably historical. And there are Renaissance fairs that have fairies, pirates, Klingons. Yes. And occasionally, the 501st Stormtroopers will show up. So,
Those are what we refer to as fantasy fairs.
now, as those who knew the fair in Agoura, things have changed drastically. We
Things
unfortunately,
I always wanted to go to. I was a Valley girl, I always wanted to go.
come
to
and
it,
see
never
us.
did.
You know, come and see us now. You'd probably enjoy it more now because there are so many more people who are doing demos of the crafting. There's weavers, there's spinners, there's the smiths, and I shouldn't say too much about the kitchen, because actually most of what they cook is really good. I'm just not a big fan of turnips. What my mother did to certain vegetables was a crime,
Yeah.
so,
Overcooked.
I didn't know what Brussels sprouts tasted like, because what my grandmother served me was not Brussels sprouts, no matter what she called them. But now they're good, especially if you fry them up with bacon, but. So, there's so much that goes on at the fair. We are about 26 acres, and they have a professional joust, which can be highly entertaining. Your better bet, if you really want to see a good joust, go up to Medieval Times in Anaheim. It's air conditioned. There's no dust. And if you cheer for the Green Knight, who's usually the bad guy, he eats it up. He loves it. And he will play to you guys like nobody's business. We had a whole group, there were about 30 of us. Okay, you know you've got the right group when they all come in the right kind of clothing for Medieval Times, not the Renaissance Fair, and carrying their own tankards and their own eating utensils. Tip on that, tip your person, because they are paid crap. He was very happy that night. Everybody in our group gave him a $3 tip, and he got 3 phone numbers. So, but the Green Knight was our night, because we specifically asked to sit in the Green Knight section, and every evil deed, every awful thing he did, he cheered. And the people around us were really getting into the fact that these people are cheering the bad guy on. So we had more fun. We broke the MC. We broke the Baron and Baroness sitting up in their little thrones, because we were sitting right next to that section where they are. So they were hearing all the snarky comments that we were making as well. We had them in hysterics. So when you go to that kind of thing, go to have fun. So far as Renaissance fairs are concerned, sturdy shoes. If you want to dress up, put something on. If you have that gauzy skirt from Holy Clothing, which I love, holyclothing.com has Renaissance Fair stuff. It is not in any way, shape, or form, period, but it's comfortable. Comfortable shoes, a hat. Now, as you can see, I am wearing a hat. Normally, my hat is off because I also have hair down here. And I am a braider's practice head for the Braids for Maids booth, and they do these incredible creations on my head. So I'm an advertisement for them. But a good Elizabethan lady always had a hat on. And if you'll notice, there are no pins or anything holding my hat on. My braids hold my hat on. So for those of you who do not have hair that long, you might have to have hairpins. But you would want something that is your own portable shade. Straw hats, don't wear wool felt.
Don't wear what?
Wool felt.
Oh, no.
I have some friends who come and they're wearing their Vikings and they're wearing their wool. I'm like, really, guys, are you out of your minds? Water, bring water. They do have places you can fill water bottles, refill water bottles. Some people think, okay, if I'm going to the Ren Fair, I'm going to drink beer. Stay at home and drink beer, it's a lot cheaper. Sodas were what, $6 a cup? And
Yeah.
beers were $8 for the
No.
coolers.
Beer started at $10.50
So,
for like a
Coors,
I'm glad I
10
don't
or
drink.
12 ounce.
iced tea. As Shirley will tell you, I live on sweet tea.
Oh, before,
I know you. I know that bag.
yeah,
This is,
there's a reason my sampler's in there.
Ah.
Can you tell us the name of your little beautiful doll in the back? And tell her who she's all about?
This is Fionnuala. She was an Irish queen, so she's Nuala for short. And for those ladies who know what pleating things, cartridge pleating, that's what this is. And it cannot be done on a machine. So yes, I cartridge pleated 6 freaking yards in this. But I had to learn how. It's a whole lot easier on her size than on my size. So, and then when I started, okay, I made the skirt, well, I might as well finish. So I made the, a proper Elizabethan, including, she's wearing bloomers. And I crocheted this nude, again, so not quite period, but.
Did they have needle lace or anything like that? during the-
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And they had bobbin lace.
Okay.
And I have a friend who makes bobbin lace. She's actually here, in Mira Mesa. But, that was why I got the doll. The doll is actually, an articulated at the wrists, elbows, shoulders, her head tilts. She's got knees, hips, and her ankles. And she's what they call an Asian ball jointed doll. They are very popular with people who are into the anime, Japanese anime. Some of them look like they're an anime character. I liked this one because she didn't. And so that was, and she's resin. She's hand poured and hand painted on her face. And she's the first of the now 5 dolls we have at home. And that's even worse, an expensive hobby.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So are they all in period costumes?
No, let's see, Magnus is in a kimono, Natasha is in a kimono, Aslan is in the Andai that I made, the
And
Andai. and-
Yuriko is in a mermaid dress.
Yeah, the mermaid cocktail dress. I made a Vietnamese Aodai for one of his dolls. And then a lady who does this professionally made the kimonos for the dolls. And she has actually a set of Vikings as well, because she's my main doll and I can play with my costuming and it not be costuming. And that size, it's much easier. Yes,
Tell us about your introduction, how you got started.
I got suckered. It's kind of like with Comic-Con. So I was in high school and I was hanging out with a bunch of friends and they went, "You like this kind of stuff?" What kind of stuff? You know, the elves and it's like, okay, yeah, I like fantasy stuff. Well, you like history stuff too? Like, yeah. And your point? You gotta come down and see this. So I did. And that's when I got involved with the Society for Creative Anachronism. Do you know the SCA? Yes, you do. I was thinking that your face was familiar. No? You have a doppelganger.
Did you ever meet Tracy Rowley and her husband Adam? They were active.
Were they here in San Diego?
Yes, and she unfortunately is no longer here. Adam still is. He may still be participating.
He may,
He's
but
in the
I'm,
Navy.
I'm not. And there's approximately 5,000 people in San Diego County that do the SCA. and
They
one-
were fairly active last year.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have, because
Yeah.
I've only gone to one event a year for about the last 5 years. I started in the SCA, and I started in Vikings. And that translated into a lot of fun, and I still enjoy my Vikings, and I still enjoy that kind of things. And then about 25 years ago, when my ex-husband left, that was 30 years ago. 32 years ago. I was active in the SCA, and his then girlfriend was active at FAIR. So he took over FAIR, and I kept doing the SCA events. And then he started bringing our young daughter, who's now 35, our young daughter to the Renaissance Fair. And I would pick her up from the Renaissance Fair. And the first year that they were in San Bernardino, I came to the front gate to find my 7-year-old sitting on a hay bale, or laying on a hay bale with a nosebleed, and her father nowhere in sight. He had left her at the front gate, just left her at the front gate with the people at the front gate who were fabulous, but had no responsibility for this 7-year-old, because he knew I'd be there. I started doing the Ren Fair the next weekend. I didn't intrude on their time. I found other things to do. And they were involved in the Guild of St. Ives. And eventually they made themselves unwelcome. And by that time I had been integrated into the group. As one of them put it, we don't want them, we want you. We're not getting rid of you. We want Robin. We're not getting rid of Robin. We just want to get rid of them. I'm like, works for me. And I've been with them ever since, and actually I don't do as much with the SCA. Robin, our daughter, is very active in the SCA, and not so much at FAIR anymore. She grew up at FAIR, she grew up in the SCA, and she grew up at Comic-Con, but that's kind of how I got involved. I've always been interested in history. So far as Elizabethan history is concerned, I didn't graduate from high school because of my involvement with Elizabethan history. I had a student teacher who wasn't even going by what was in her own textbook. And as you can tell, I'm a shy retirement flower. Hey, at least I waited until after class and nobody else was around to correct her.
Yeah.
And I said, this isn't what you're telling us isn't what the textbook says. Well, that didn't go over so well. And then I came down with pneumonia and I was out for 6 weeks. My senior year. Everyone else went, we're not gonna hold her back because she's can't breathe. So they dropped most of my grades down to C's, except for the incomplete I got in history. At which point in time I had to explain to my father why we were not celebrating my graduating from high school. And they said, well, you can start summer school. And I said, well, unless summer school is at night, I have a full-time job waiting for me. This was on a Thursday night. I started on Monday. Luckily, my boss was not amused to find his youngest child not graduating from high school. Said, you find out whatever work they want, and you get the work and you do it. So I picked up the work on Monday, sat at my desk in my office on Monday, and I turned in the 6 weeks worth of work on Tuesday. And when I talked to the vice principal, she looked at me and she says, what's this? I said, this is the work that she held up my diploma for. And the lady had the grace to apologize to me. She said, this is not, this was not right, but. And I said, it's done. Can I have my diploma now? I need to go back to work. And so there's always been a love of history. You made me laugh when you said you can't just go into a box store or something and buy trim. I'm weaving trim one night at home. I've been doing this stuff for years. And my mother looks at me and she says, "What are you doing?" And now at this point in time, I'm in my 30s and my kid is watching TV in the other room and I'm being with my mom. I'm going, "I'm weaving trim." "Well, can't you just get that at Walmart?" "No, Mom, Walmart doesn't sell hand-woven ankle trim. As soon as they do, I'll go buy it at Walmart." "Oh, well, is that for that history stuff you do?" "Yes, it is, Mom." "Well, I don't understand why you just can't go to Walmart and get what you need." "I can't, Mom, they don't have it there." No patience, and she was the one who got me interested in Elizabethan history. She just didn't expect me to take it quite to this level. But and having grown up interested in history, I found it so much more fun when you live it. And you're so much more grateful for electricity. Flush toilets.
Dental care.
Now, see, now we have dental care.
I'm scared to think, yeah.
And the gentleman who portrays Master Thaddeus
Uh-huh.
has no teeth.
Yeah.
And he doesn't wear any teeth, and he offers to help you. And he has the instruments that he would have used back then hanging on his belt. But he's wonderful. Having raised a child out in this kind of organization, it's like any other organization. You've got good, you've got bad, you've got people who you do not want to associate with, and you've got people who you like better than the family that God gave you. I know that is the case with me. I much prefer my fair siblings over the ones that I got by birth. It's because in our organization alone, we have enough teachers to have a small school, but we have military contractors, we have computer experts, we have robotics engineers, we have Dustin. We have people who work on oil rigs, so he's only out when he can get off the rig. We have law enforcement, San Diego Sheriff's Department. San Bernardino, oh yeah, that's right. We have San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. So we have people who come from all over. We have medical personnel. We have retirees. People ask me, well, how's it like to be retired? As soon as I'm retired, I'll let you know. As soon as I'm doing, are you thinking I'm doing nothing? I got news for you. I'm just getting at least 6 hours of sleep each night. It's so rewarding being around so many of the people that we are. And much like your group, and I love what you're doing with the friendship samplers. And I'm shamelessly going to steal that. And cajole, threaten, challenge the members of whoever wants to. Now, theatrically and historically, the members of the whorehouse would not be allowed to do that kind of thing. It was not considered, it's considered way above theirs. Now, the lowliest peasant might be able to do just a little bit of colored embroidery on their clothes, but the whores would not be allowed to do any of the fine work, well, not where anyone could catch them.
Now, why did you look at us and say that?
Because several of them are my friends. And so, but for something like the sampler, I would love to see some of the things that they would come up with. And we all have, you know the resources out there for so many different wonderful patterns. And sometimes it's even taking the same pattern or the same fabric and going, see what you can do with it. And we love it. And I could go on for hours. So yes.
When you said your apprentices would do that, what, so you are a master weaver, and where do your apprentices come from?
In reality, my apprentices are new people to the guild who go, I want to learn how to do that. I've taught several people, including him, how to do inkle weaving. So I'm being the master in that I'm teaching them the techniques and going forward. Theatrically, any small children I can scare into thinking their parents are going to leave them with me, are my apprentices. And the smaller the better, because it's easier for them to get inside the pots and scrub them out. And then we go through and then we teach, because we are a 501c3 educational corporation. We teach what it means to be an apprentice, what it means to be a journeyman, who's allowed to marry, who isn't, who picks your partner, who doesn't, you. And we go through that process. As I was an apprentice and I am still an apprentice knitter, I will always be an apprentice knitter. So Katie is a master at knitting. And I taught her how to inkle weave and French knots. And so now we challenge each other. Now when I almost gave up spinning, she said, I want you to change the fiber. Let's change the fiber. Let's do this. And she was the one who actually got me to spinning again. So there's always that challenge. There's always that, well, maybe I could do it. She's also the person who put me on basket restriction, because we can't have, even though I do have 31 bags. I love that company. Oh my gosh. So I can't have those bags out. So I have the wonderful African gas baskets, like that one.
So do you have a basket maker in your group?
No, we go to one of the actual vendors at fair. Who knows us now? It's bad when the vendors know you, because they only see you for 7 weekends. So yeah.
Are there any other questions? Because we want to give people time to touch everything.
Oh, please do.
And to feel the linen and the cloth. But before, I forgot to say, Josh is also part of Hobby Con. He's head of anime film.
Anime Urban?
And for about how many years now?
Anime, this was my
20-something?
20, so I've been doing it for 31 years, minus 4, so 27 years that I've been part of anime.
And also as a thank you, sorry, it's a little off my hand, we don't do this often. We don't, because, people, when they see our needlework, as you all know, we say, I could pay you $10 more. They don't recognize the work that goes in there. But with the two of you, with Mikey and Josh, you understand the value of needlework. So we decided to make something special out of needlework for you to cherish.
Oh.
So this is a little hanging thing, and it glows in the dark. Sandy Higgins, so Sandy Higgins Design, finished that.
Thank you.
She generously donated her time. And then Margaret
From the EGA group.
from the EJ group made you a sachet, and it is a pattern from Pocahontas.
Yeah, no, Pocahontas jacket. And
Pocahontas
there's a
jacket.
jump drive in there with all the patterns on for you.
Oh my
So,
God.
so you've got the
Thank you.
patterns for the jacket if you want to do one yourself.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. This was actually a privilege and a pleasure for us, because we're in a room of people who are as crazy as we are, who love to do this. Oh, heavens. Gotta show you one thing. This is, okay, I know where that's going.
Back of it.
As soon as my sewing room is not occupied,
Is that the glow in the dark one, Sandy?
Not the fabric?
not the fabric, no.
No.
As soon as my sewing room is not occupied with a squatter, we will, I know exactly where that's going. I have to show you this because it's absolutely fun. Okay. This is foin blackwork.
How do you spell that?
F-Y-N-E. Remembering that spelling was not standardized
Right.
for a couple hundred more years. This is fine blackwork. Now, it has a little bit of an issue on the back. We have to replace that. Fine blackwork. It is, oh, yes.
And the story behind this is, I found a quilter's hoop,
A big one.
Big.
a 4-foot in diameter quilter's hoop.
My gosh.
I decided I was going to do fine blackwork on my hoop. So I bought monk's cloth, 6 to the inch, and number 3 cotton crochet thread.
Yeah.
Put a piece of monk's cloth on my hoop and started doing my black work. I even wore my little readers so I could see what I was doing.
So this was purchased Monk's Cloth?
Yeah.
Okay. Nicely done.
Trust me, I am not going to pay my idiot brother, the weaver, for any of his stuff. Not when I do historical recreation, but I'm a former county worker. I can't afford my brother's cloth. Because, now, again, you can't ever get the cost of your labor back. However, he tries.
So is that as much as you got done on your 4-foot hoop of blackwork?
That was just all I did. I want to do a large piece, basically a sampler that will cover a 6-8 foot table. Same basic thing with the number 3 crochet thread, but I'll do stuff around the thing, and then I'm going to do some Booth arc in the center. I haven't decided what it's going to say
Booth
yet.
Ark is the Viking runes.
No.
Okay, thank you so much. Big applause. Feel her heavy apron or her dress, how it's really bulky. And then you can touch anything you want on here.
Absolutely. Can you fondle everyone?
Yes.
Enjoy that. Enjoy jelly and bean.
I was just curious about the embroidery on
We
the
get chocolate mousse cupcakes because I've been told they're not gonna travel well. You can eat cookies too. Finish the cupcake.
Please, eat cupcakes.
I found an iron-on pattern. Henry is the one that came up and I came up because it's the
I used to know them by heart, and I think it's the Yorks, the Red Rose, and the Lancasters, and the White Rose, and the Beautiful.
So Lancasters and the Yorks.
Yes, but we can't remember which one they're which.
I can't remember.
Lancasters, I believe, were the White Rose.
I remember that R. Does your, and I just find curious for myself.
No, you just get rid of the
I don't, I mean, I'm not. No, she's somebody.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, we're, you guys know well, she's a weaver and a spinner.
What was that?
I was gonna ask you about this paperwork, I'll get it sometime, I'm like, oh, brother.
Yeah.
I'll take it down, I gotta go to the library.
There you go.
Make a copy.
I just was so curious about that.
Oh, there's 2 copies there. There's 2 copies there. Yeah. Yeah. And I've got a copy too.
I told Marty that I know she was kept on, probably reading papers and she goes, no, I said, I've already gone through that. So at one point she writes me back and she says, so Stephen Fisher said, you should put all this.